As we celebrate Paul Barris's retirement, we want to take a look back at some of his favorite segments over the years. He shares with our Michelle Herron about the time he flew with the Blue Angels and even tried his hand at piloting.
Paul Barris got a few impressions himself today when, just for a few minutes, he became a Blue Angel.
It was a memory that will last a lifetime.
So they said, how would you like to fly with the Blue Angels? And I had been taking flying lessons, so I was working on my pilot's license. I said, are you kidding? I'd go. I said, when do we go?
His first job in Washington, North Carolina, not only combined meteorology and reporting, but also his love of flying.
He told me what to touch and what not to touch, like the ejection handles.
This one was my favorite of all time. This was my first job. It was probably in the spring of 1976.
Paul boarded an A-4 Skyhawk with Lieutenant Niall Craft at Cherry Point Marine Station.
He got me into the airplane and strapped me in. I remember the one thing they told you as they're strapping you in for the ejection seat. You see that that yellow thing on the bottom there? Don't touch that.
And with a camera in hand, they were off.
And the first thing he did, we get down the runway, and he tells me, he said, we're going to do a high-performance takeoff. I didn't know what that meant.
First, we were to use a high-performance takeoff.
I'm shooting outside as we're going down the runway, and all of a sudden, the plane gets about 5 feet off the ground, and then all of a sudden, goes up like that. So immediately, the camera that's looking outside is in my lap.
Not much about the flight surprised Paul.
We did every maneuver the Blue Angels do, except we didn't do it in formation. We just did it by ourselves. So we did all the spirals, the barrel rolls. That didn't bother me. In this, it's not, it's sudden. It's like, laugh off to the side. So all of a sudden, you see your stomach on the wingtip, and you say, come back. And there's no describing it.
Lieutenant Craft even let Paul try his hand at flying the two-seater.
But it was a blast, something that obviously I'll never forget.
Paul had many favorite segments over the years, including Space Camp.
The first things I did here was doing the space camp. He said, how'd you like to do space camp? And I can't remember exactly if I knew what space camp was at that time. Welcome to the cockpit of Challenger.
Space Camp has changed over the years. Once a place designed for children, now welcomes all ages.
When you were a kid, you probably went to camp. Maybe you went up to a lake and did some fishing, swimming, hiking, had a whole bunch of fun. Well, things have changed. You still have fun, but now you go to space camp.
It almost set you back to being a kid and playing. And that's what it was all pretend, but they tried to make it so that it was similar to what they do. It's not in the astronauts so much, it's what the people who support the astronauts do.
Paul followed all of the same procedures used on launch days.
It's like, okay, we're going to lift off at a certain time. You had to get everything lined up. Right? You're in charge of this, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of this.
The only downside, Paul says, was living like a grade school camper.
We went through the whole routine. The only negative thing on it was Michael and I looked at each other and said, why did we stay in the dorm? We should have gone to a hotel. I'm not really sweating here. This is all makeup.
In Chattanooga, Michelle Herron, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Past 36 years, Paul Barris has tracked all sorts of severe weather, but 3 major weather events stand out. So, coming up on Thursday, Paul looks back at 3 unforgettable storms that changed a lot of lives, including his own. That's coming up right here on Channel 3 at 6 o'clock Thursday, and we'll be right back.